Kyp Durron. I suppose you left dozens of mind-controlled servants and guards behind you, stumbling around the palace in confusion. That's your style, isn't it? Not to mention, the only way to explain your presence here. Getting out will be easier. You'll be with me. I don't think so, she said coolly. Think again. I'm here to take you to your brother's funeral. That was the last thing Jaina had expected. Kyp's blunt pronouncement tore a veil from her heart, and for a moment, the terror and fury and agony of Anakin's death filled her senses. Jaina hurled away these emotions and replaced them with an anger that matched Kyp's. She planted her fists on her hips and stared him down. You're going to take me? You and what Sith Lord? He stabbed a finger at her in a gesture that reminded her a little too much of her father in a parental snit. Don't challenge me, Jaina. Give me one good reason. His eyes raked over her, and the expression in them dispelled any fatherly comparisons. You couldn't channel the Force wearing that dress. There isn't enough room in there for it to squeeze through. Jaina's cheeks flamed, but no suitable retort came to mind. Worse, she had to admit that his words touched on the truth. I'll change, she said stiffly. Kyp shrugged a leather strap off his shoulder and tossed her a canvas bag. He jerked his head toward the side room where Jaina and Ta Chum had spoken. In there. Teeth gritted, eyes blazing, Jaina marched into the room. In the bag was a pair of low, soft boots that she recognized as her mother's, Jedi robes identical to those Kyp wore, and a lightsaber. Finally, she came out, grim-faced but resolute. Let's get this over with. They passed through the grounds and to the outbuilding housing royal transport of various kinds. Kyp settled down on a land speeder. His long fingers moved deftly over the controls and the vehicle hummed to life. Jaina settled down behind him. As they sped up the mountain, the trees began to thin and then gave way to scrub. Twin moons rose, casting their pale light on the strange rocky formations crowning the mountain. Gathered there, their somber faces clearly visible in the light of 100 torches, were her family and friends. Kyp pulled up the land speeder a respectful distance away. Jaina quickly scrambled off and strode toward the gathering. Jaina's gaze swept the small crowd, starting with her parents and then skimming over a surprisingly large group. All the survivors of the mission to Merkur were there. Then her unwilling gaze shifted to the center of the circle, and all other considerations dissipated. They had brought Anakin here and placed him on a high, flat stone. A ring of torches surrounded him, a bright border separating him from those who bore witness to his passage. The shadows stirred, and Tahiri stepped into the circle of light. Anakin saved my life, she said simply. The Yuuzhan Vong locked my body in a cage and tried to do the same thing with my mind. Anakin came to Yavin 4, alone, and brought me out. She fell silent as she gazed into the torchlight. A yearning expression crossed her scarred face, as if the impulse to follow Anakin one more time was too strong to ignore. Leia stepped forward and rested a hand on the girl's shoulder. Jaina couldn't see her mother's face clearly, but something in it seemed to pull Tahiri back. The girl's shoulders rose and fell in a profound sigh, and she yielded her place to another. Anakin Solo saved my life, repeated a soft, tentative voice. A young boy stepped into the firelight, and Jaina's heart simply shattered. He was a near exact image of her brother at that age. Tousled light brown hair, ice blue eyes, even the dent in the center of his chin. Anakin saved my life, he said softly. Mine and a shipload of people I would have let burn into star food. He made the hard decision at Cern Padal, the right decision. I hope he knows that. Jaina's jaw dropped as Kyp Durron moved into the light. I knew Anakin only through reputation, but I suspect that someday I will be able to stand before a solemn assembly and tell how this young Jedi changed, even saved, my life. Anakin's life continues to flow outward, touching and guiding those who knew him only slightly, and those who have yet to hear his name. Most of us here use the Force. This young man embodied it. Others came forward, but Jaina didn't hear their words. She'd always known that Anakin was different, special. It seemed odd that Kyp Durron would be the one to find the words that eluded her. At last, the voices fell silent, the torches burned low. The rising moons converged, then began to sink along their separate paths toward the jagged forest horizon. Luke picked up one of the torches and moved forward. This was the moment Jaina had dreaded most. Anakin was gone, and she understood that what was left was little more than an empty shell. But she had fought so viciously to win him away from the Yuuzhan Vong, and for what? To stand by and watch him destroyed now? It didn't seem right. Nothing about Anakin's death did. Luke Skywalker approached the bier and lowered the torch. The flames spread, limning Anakin's body in golden light. The fire dissipated into thousands of dancing motes. These rose slowly into the sky, shimmering against the darkness like newborn stars. As they slipped away into the night, it seemed to Jaina that the stars shone a little brighter.